Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I am so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have an amazing show lined up. Just a couple of powerhouse women. They're going to be joining us here in just a minute. Our first guest is none other than Jennifer McGill. And Jennifer, you've probably seen her. She's been around for quite some time. She's a former Disney Channel star, part of the all-new Mickey Mouse Club that aired from 1998 to 1994. She did over 300 episodes, and some of her classmates were Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears, just to name a few. So Jennifer's here today to share with us her new album debut, Unbreakable. So let's welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Hello, Marianne. Hello, everybody.
Hey, congratulations. I understand that your album was released today.
Oh, my gosh. I'm so excited. Yes, today is the day. It's everywhere now.
Well, and for people who might be new to you, I mean, you've been around in the music industry, my gosh, for a really long time. I mean, you were a former Disney star, and you were doing the all-new Mickey Mouse Club back in the day. And so you've had kind of a journey since then. Why don't you share a little bit about your story and why you chose the title Unbreakable for your album?
Absolutely. So I think in 1989, I began my career as a Mouseketeer on the Disney Channel's new Mickey Mouse Club. It was my first job. I loved the stage, but I was not like a stage kid. I didn't have any big, force of I am going to be famous. I just loved to get on the stage and sing and perform and just go nuts. And so this show allowed me to professionally continue to do that and get better and better at a variety of things, because that was a true variety show for kids. We were singing and dancing and acting, comedy, doing like fun commercial spoofs. We made an album. We toured the world. We did interviews. We met so many celebrities. It was absolutely more than I ever could have dreamed to happen to me at such a young age. And so, instead of right after that show, I had spent about 7 years of my, developmental years on that show. I felt like I wanted to pursue my craft educationally instead of run right into another big possible showbiz, life season. So I went to college. I graduated from New York University with my Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I really felt like I understood what I was born to do, technically. I really felt stronger in everything that I had been doing on the new Mickey Mouse Club, really just from a raw talent perspective all those years. And so I spent many years after that working in the industry, like under Geek Sharon, who is the big vocal arranger for Pitch Perfect movies. He's an amazing musical director, an amazing arranger. And I loved my time with him. I loved my time with Disney World Entertainment. I got my equity card. I toured the world again singing pop songs. Like I am a child of pop music and pop R&B. And so all this time later, after many doors had been closed in that one dream of being a recording artist, I really had experienced so many more years of live performance. Because I wasn't doing that recording artist thing, I was all over the place, still singing and doing what I love. But I did feel a lot of emotions when it came to those closed doors, right after college, and thinking, wow, this one big dream that I've had ever since I can remember, I just can't achieve it. It's just not happening. And you start questioning, why you were made to do what you do if you can't go do it on a global scale. And so long story short with that, even though I had been performing for decades since the new Mickey Mouse Club, I essentially gave up the dream of being a recording artist. I left it all by the wayside, and I really could not sift out of my life, a lot of the bitterness and the anger, feeling like I didn't have an identity. Like I was doing all this stuff, I was working nonstop, but what was it all really for? I was really just covering other people's music. And I needed more, but, I came to a wonderful crossroads about 10 years ago. And I rededicated my heart to God. And I said, Lord, you know what? I've tried to force a lot of stuff, and I'm just not going to do this all by myself anymore. I'm going to give you back control. And once that happened, almost immediately, he put me on a path that has led me to this year. He molded my heart and my voice and my whole life, everyone who is in my life now, to support this message that has been a lifetime in the making of Unbreakable. And you asked about what that means to me. You know, all of these years that I lived in uncertainty as far as what are my talents for? What am I born to do? You know, what is my purpose? Why this, why that? When life would hit me with all that hard stuff, I would break apart very easily. I was like a jigsaw puzzle with one piece that you just couldn't figure out where it went. You know, I was never really complete. And I couldn't fight anything by myself. It was like taking a needle into a sword fight. But once I rededicated my life to Christ and I let God put me back together, that same stuff in life can come hit me, and I don't break like I used to. You know, really, since I am in unity with my Creator and have fought the fight of faith and feel very victorious, you know, even when life is tough, it's just a different battle now because I really feel like that I'm equipped the way that I'm supposed to. With God never leaving me alone in that battle, I'm just unbreakable in that way. You know, I just do not fall apart like I used to. And it's a huge victory statement. So I really felt like, I mean, even though I love that song. I love our first single. It's wonderful. I mean, it's so upbeat and cool and uplifting. But that really was the best theme for the whole album. Wherever you are in your journey, you know, there is a place where you can reach the unbreakable status. And really, the battles are not the same once you fight them with God at your side.
Well, and I think a lot of people can relate to this when they've gone through just, you know, really difficult times and had great hardship. And everyone goes through that. No one's exempt for that. You know, we all go through it in our different ways. And to be able to come out the other side, and if it's God, the universe, whoever it is that they're putting their higher, their trust in for their higher power, really kind of moves them into a whole new direction. Because there's when you really get to the point where you can give up that control and say, you know what, I need help, and obviously I can't do it, it really puts you on a different track. And you are really a testament for that. I mean, your life is just, it's amazing, all the great things that have happened. You know, I know we've had the great opportunity to talk before, and you are just on this amazing track, but you've been on this for some time. I mean, you've been writing songs for other recording artists for quite some time.
Yes, and it was not easy to make the decision to give up control of my life. I mean, just from an artist standpoint, you know, our job sometimes has to be all about ourselves, and it's really funny. I'm doing so much social media right now, and it's awkward because I just don't like pointing to myself. It's not. But you know, it is more of a pleasure now because I'm pointing to a success story. I'm pointing to, and that has nothing to do with my career or fame. The success is that from the inside out, I am a whole person. Now more than ever before. And, you know, it's my pleasure to help other people, whether it's songwriting, coaching, you know, delivering these songs from Unbreakable, you know, as a message of hope and encouragement and inspiration, especially to people who are not in the same place that I am in my faith, you know, people who are still looking, still searching, have some questions. You know, they feel like maybe I'm in the thick of battle. I feel like I know what I need to know, but I just feel, you know, weak or used up a little bit. I'm a little depleted. I need a new surge of energy and hope and encouragement. Wherever they are, you know, I love to help because I feel like I have walked through the fire. You know, I'm tried and tested. You know, these ways and the way that I walk now and the way that I battle spiritually, you know, they've worked. And it was not just because I just decided you know, I'm going to, you know, give up control and now life is perfect. No, it's because then I had to stand up and then fight. I had to stand up and help clean up the mess and, you know, live a different way and, you know, walk the faith and fight that good fight every day like any human being has to. And it's a tried and true strengthening tool, and this whole album is about really strength training the listeners spiritually, to have more of that unbreakableness in their life, wherever they are in their walk. And so, I have more joy from my career now because I give back more than I ever had before. It is way less about me now than it's ever been, and I couldn't be happier about that.
Oh, I just applaud you, Jennifer. I mean, I think that you're just such a inspiration to so many people. And again, like regardless where they are in their path, they can listen to your album and really get that encouragement and move on. Now, how difficult was it? Because I know that you've been writing music for these amazing performing artists for quite some time. How difficult was it to say, you know what, I'm actually going to sing and produce my own song when it came to Unbreakable and this album?
Well, yes, I know that I remember when I write for other people that I do put a lot of my own isms in other people's songs. Like I know that I love rhythm. I know that I love a certain way of rhyming. I like unique words. So I do know that part was easy to just kind of turn that laser beam onto my own work and do the fun stuff that I loved to provide in other people's songs. But it was interesting to say, okay, well now I can include all these big notes, like just the way that I sing. I had the opportunity to write melodies that I could conquer that maybe I wouldn't, force on anyone else. And so it was fun to play with melody and play with rhythm and lyrics in this way. It was also a courageous step to have to magnify my life instead of write about someone else's.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, and it took a lot of courage to go, you know what, this is my song. No one else can sing this. I'm going to go out there and do this.
That's right. There's one song that I find is very, especially vulnerable. It's called Look in the Mirror. And there was, in the second verse, we say, fading in a blink, lonely girl who wants to be anyone but me, making up her mind to die a little bit inside, wish I could go back in time, make her see me differently. And that is absolutely autobiographical. I mean, that is something I wish that I could have a better memory of how I viewed myself as a young person. I let the world, label me and stamp me with less than way too often. And it was a lie that became the truth for a long time, which is part of now how I battle things. I can recognize a lie and not let it stay in my brain. So that song, that was just like, and it hits me every time I hear it. But I get so proud as well. I get so proud of being able to put that in a cool pop lyric. That's hard. But I want people in a cool pop song, I want them to hear the depth of what I went through because I know I'm not alone. And I want them to be able to connect with that. Maybe they have a little girl or even a little boy who feels that way about themselves now, and I want them to have someone to look up to that even if you feel that way now, you can win over any of those thoughts. Look at me, because I absolutely had to crawl out of a big hole that I had created for myself over decades.
Well, and I think a lot of people can really relate to that. I mean, when it comes to how we feel about ourselves, most people have, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. They've got that song repeating in their heads, and so to be able to get to the point that they're saying, you know what, I deserve to have a good life and I don't have to do it all by myself, and there's other people like Jennifer who's gone through difficult times and come out the other side because, most people may look at you and go, gosh, she's got it all together. But, like I was saying before, everyone goes through their difficult moments and we never know, kind of what war a person is raging inside. And to be able to give all that up and say, you know what, I don't have to do it all by myself. I mean, that's just an amazing place to come from.
Yes, this album is the first time that I've let fans into that darker side of me, and revealed that I have not had it all together, and that the smile on the outside was not the end of it. I was always really good at putting on a brave face and a smiley face. I mean, I was a mouseketeer, for crying out loud. You know, we were trained to smile and be upbeat. You know, it was part of my job. And so that is a big joke that we've had before, where I say, you know, I'm the poster child for broken dreams, but no one would know it looking at me, you know, and you know, now I'm not faking it. You know, now I genuinely smile, and I am a genuinely joyous woman because of what I've fought through to get to this place of wholeness. And it is true this because I didn't do it by myself. I finally stopped trying to force things and isolate myself, you know, and I opened my heart up to the one who never leaves. So, for sure, it's absolutely all through my album, the feeling of being too much or too little, and how do you deal with that? And anybody can relate to that, you know, and I felt that it was necessary to really sort of bleed out a bit for everybody to show them that I've had a lot of struggles, because otherwise they just wouldn't believe it, like you said, you know. The life of a career kid or a showbiz kid, a child star, especially a former child star, is not usually easy. And I know
that's a tough go, you know.
Right, you know, and so, you know, everybody's story is different, but, you know, I did understand that I had to open up in order to let everybody in, to show them that this album is not just about, you know, butterflies and stars and rainbows and unicorns, all of which I love.
Don't forget the sparkles.
It's not about fluff. Right. Yeah. It is not about fluff. It's very deep, and that everything that I write about in this album is absolutely something I have gone through, you know, and I got to share my story so that they understand that they're not alone, and that the reason why I'm not alone in all of this is because of my faith, you know, and that they can achieve the same victories as I have, you know, and it's really the battle of the mind. You know, it's like, where is your heart? And through your heart, you know, you can overcome any of those really dangerous thoughts in your mind, no matter how long it's been, because believe me, it was decades before I started fighting them off again. And you can be restored. And I cannot say it enough. It's absolutely possible. And it is the journey that is the goal, you know. It's like, I'm not done. We'll never be done while we're on this earth. There's always going to be something else to battle and another level that we can achieve. And that is why this album is written for all the different levels of battles that people may be going through, whether they're just beginning, whether they feel like they've battled a lot and they need a recharge, they need a little bit more dose of encouragement and hope, or maybe this is the first time they've been hit with something hard and they need a reminder about who they are in Christ. You know, wherever you are on your journey, there's a song for you on this album, and that was very much on purpose.
Well, it's easy to see, you know, just what a testament again you are to all of this. I mean, people can look at you as a role model and say, gosh, you know, if she can do it, and they have, of course, to buy the album if there are any left, because I know they're flying off the shelves. But I know that they can go ahead and get your album and listen to it and really, you know, get some encouragement for their lives that way, which is such an important thing. I mean, I love the songs on your album. I've been having such a great time listening to them, and I'm going to be listening to them for the rest of this week because they're just so dynamic. I mean, my goodness. You know, Fearless. I mean, what a great song. I love that one.
Thank you. Yeah, Fearless. You know, I co-wrote that with my husband, Jeff Bohannon, and an amazing songwriter, Sydney Hutchcove, that we had just met. It was the first song that we all wrote together. And it was so exciting because, you know, the big goal that we had was to make an anthem song that on the surface you could just jam out to it in your car, you know, and just feel good about it in general. But when you really peel away the layers and listen to those lyrics, they're deep. You know, my armor covers the scars, a part of my heart I'll never trade. I mean, that's for real. That's something that all of us can relate to. That, you know, if you protect yourself, it doesn't mean that you're going to forget your past. You know, we learn from our past. It's something that I'd never trade, the wisdom that I have now from my mistakes, but I'm protected now. Like, I'm different now, you know, and those scars remind me of how far I've come. that's just in a fun anthem, jam out in the car song. I love it. Like that's what we wanted, was all of that depth in a fun song.
Well, and then, so why don't you talk a little bit about Limitless? That's another one that I keep playing over and over. I love it.
I love Limitless too. Yeah, that's a cover worship song. And I love how we I guess rethought about it as far as, how I wanted to attack it. I am known for jumping around a lot on the platform at church. I love worshiping, high energy. So they throw that song at me a lot, and I love it. I just love it. And so the producer for that song, Michael Whitaker, he brought me into the studio after he had produced a good chunk of that track. And I loved what he did with it, and it just made me want to bounce up and down. And so, we just ran through that song a few times in the studio, and I could feel how my voice started becoming my own sound with that song versus copying anything that I had heard, from it on the radio before. And oh my gosh, when I hit that bridge, I just love it. Lord, you are bigger. Lord, you're greater. You're stronger than anything. I just love kind of unleashing, the notes in that higher octave up there, because all that stuff is very freeing for me. Anytime you hear me go up into a big note in a song, it's kind of like my Care Bear stare. I joke about that sometimes. It's my mutant power. I just unleash it, and it's very freeing for me. So, every time I hit a high note, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And so, sometimes, that's the last song on the album, and it's kind of my thank you goodnight song. But we put it last so that we could, again, wrap up this amazing journey of all the 16 songs on the album. We've taken them from, theme after theme of foraging through life and the battles that we have and the spiritual victories we can have. And then Limitless, we bring it all back to the focus on God. Just you are limitless. There's nothing that you cannot do. And I just love it that the last thing on the album is you're limitless. I just shoot it right back to heaven. And I, again, take the attention off myself. It's all about you, God, So, I love that song too. And it was fun. We did a concert, very recently. The album release concert happened August 3rd. And, that was the last song of the evening as well. And it was just awesome, like, to jump up and down, and then just all you hear at the end of it is just my voice ringing out, you're limitless. Everybody stops with that, just as if it just soared right up to the heavens. So, yeah, love that song too. I do.
It's easy to see why. And gosh, I've heard today you've actually had record downloads of your songs, so I'm not surprised at all. But I do want to talk about, now you have the website Unbreakable Project. What is that all about?
It is an offshoot. It's attached to jennifermcgill.com. What we are experiencing, which is super cool, is that there's so many articles and so many blogs, news things, media highlights that we can't update. We would cover up all of the Unbreakable information if we kept updating all of the new happenings, right, from my jennifermcgill.com. So the company created unbreakableproject.com so that if you just want to get right to the album, you'll be able to see everything quick and easy at unbreakableproject.com. So I can keep, uploading all of my videos and my speaker events and all of my calendar and all of the articles. But instead of having to sort through all of that, other exciting cool stuff, you can just go straight to unbreakableproject.com. But it's all accessible through jennifermcgill.com. But access to anything Unbreakable, basically, is at unbreakableproject.com. So they're connected.
Well, and today's such a great day. Your album's been released today. I know you've got some upcoming events, and so people can go to either Jennifer McGill or unbreakableproject.com and search those. So, Jennifer, where do you go from here? I mean, my goodness, you've got so much great stuff happening. I wouldn't be surprised if you have another album in the works, and I'd love to hear about it if you do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I believe that my husband and I will continue to make music. He produced at least 9 of the songs on the Unbreakable album, and we're in love with them. I'm in love with him, and we're in love with these songs and all that. So, we'll keep working together in the future, but really the focus is, forward motion on Unbreakable, the album, to be able to get the message out, to be able to speak about the album. That's a big passion of mine, is to speak to women, to youth about, the battles that I've gone through and how, they're not alone in their struggles just because they weren't on a television show when they were a kid, and maybe they're not struggling with the issue of fame. How, identity is a big crisis, if you are not sure. And I love to help people, focus and point them in the right direction of how to really feel whole through God. And so I love speaking engagements. That will be happening. And at some point, I'm going to finish a book that is all about, the spiritual battles and the mental battles. It will be all about freedom fighting. There's a live event show that I wrote that's for tweens and their parents, and it's about the battles of the mind and how to become God's freedom fighter, how to fight the good fight of faith. And so the book will be unpacking all of those elements into more details so that people can really train, through this book, but also using all of my stories as to how I became a freedom fighter, how I, developed this idea and this way of being. And all of that also flows in and out of my Unbreakable album lyrics. They're all connected. This is all about being this, warrior princess, or, for the guys out there, that warrior prince, that royal son or daughter of God who knows how to spiritually battle in a victorious way. And so it all flows together, and that will probably take me through next year.
Oh, at least, right?
Yes,
my goodness.
absolutely.
I mean, for most people, that would probably take them a few years, but it's obviously easy to see how passionate you are about this and how much of a drive you have for it. So a year is no problem.
Oh, yeah. It'll get done.
Oh, gosh, Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time to be with us here today, especially on your special day, the big release. We so appreciate you being here with us.
You are welcome. I love celebrating. Like I said, it's not about me. So I am so excited to hang out on this special day and definitely not keep it to myself. It's for all you guys.
Aw. Well, we are going to pause here for a quick break. And again, you want to make sure to pick up your copy of Jennifer McGill's debut album, Unbreakable. You can get that at her website at jennifermcgill.com. So we're going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074. 630-881-1074.
to Moments with Marianne. So I'm so excited to be introducing our next guest, Laura Doyle. She is a New York Times bestselling author of The Surrendered Wife, The Surrendered Single, and The Empowered Wife. Her books have been translated into 16 languages and published in 27 countries. Laura is a relationship expert who has appeared on CBS Evening News, Dateline, The Today Show, Good Morning America, and The View. And she's also been written about in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Los Angeles Times, Washington Post, and the London Telegraph. So let's welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Marianne.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here. Now, gosh, this is the new best-selling book. This has got to be amazing.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's just been so well received, and the kinds of comments that we get about this book is that it was eye-opening. It really changed their view about marriage, life-changing things like that. So it's been really gratifying to see how quickly people are getting results and finding just a completely different approach to their relationship than most things they've ever read before.
Well, I know that your books all have a unique perspective that they bring in regards to this topic. That's why they're so powerful, and so many people are attracted to them, and obviously are leaving you great reviews, and you're getting the recognition that you're getting. So I'm not surprised. I mean, it was an easy to read book, and it made it really simple, because I think a lot of times people try to make this way more complicated than it needs to be.
Well, I think that's absolutely true. And, I think for me, one of the big aha secrets, it's a secret in that most people don't know it. And that is that women are the keepers of the relationship. And I think just even having that information can be so empowering, just knowing wow, I'm the one that gets to decide if things are going to be playful and relaxed and stress-free, or stressful and tense and wall-to-wall hostility. And I just, it's just something I never knew or understood. I thought if marriage was 50-50 or 100-100, and I was just sitting around waiting for my husband to change and get better so I could finally be happy. So it was just really a wonderful thing to find out that as the wife, I actually have more power. And it's just like with Spider-Man. I think, with great power comes great responsibility. So I think we have a responsibility to learn these skills, the intimacy skills, which, as you say, are pretty simple and can get overcomplicated if we let them, but they don't need to be. They can be pretty straightforward.
Well, and so it kind of leads me to my first question, and I think a lot of people, when they think about this, they're like, well, what's the difference? It's, how is marriage counseling different from a relationship coaching?
Yeah, well, great question. And, I did drag my husband to marriage counseling when we were at our lowest, and that's where I thought, she's going to fix him, and then I can finally be happy, because I think that's how it works. So you can kind of tell right from the way I describe it that marriage counseling can sometimes be a hideout for hypocrites, like it was for me. I wasn't going to self-reflect. I was going to be the dutiful wife while she fixed him. And that never works. But even worse than that, we became the most hopeless that we had been, really, while we were in marriage counseling. And looking back, in some ways, it's not surprising. Now that I know what actually works to make a marriage playful and passionate again, I can see that some of the things that we were doing in marriage counseling were never going to serve us. So one of them was that the first thing we did was sit in front of this counselor and my husband, and I told her everything that he was doing wrong. And that's one of the most disrespectful things you can do. And respect is actually like oxygen for men. They want to be respected and admired, and for me to sit in front of a stranger and tell her everything he was doing wrong was just digging my hole deeper. And then another unfortunate aspect of marriage counseling is that a lot of couples go to complain about each other for an hour a week, and no couple ever got happier by complaining about each other for an hour a week, and we certainly didn't. And, I know some people will say, well, that's just your experience, but being having my international relationship coaching, where I have, I've got about 30 coaches, and we just hear this story again and again. We went to marriage counseling, and now we're separated. We went to marriage counseling, and now there's an affair. Now there's a divorce pending. And it turns out there was a study at UCLA that showed that 75% of couples who had traditional behavioral marriage counseling were separated within a year of that. And so those aren't very good statistics.
Wow.
Like, would you get on a plane that crashed 75% of the time? No way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really eye-opening. I wanted to believe that marriage counseling was helpful because we spent like over $9,000. We went for years, I'm sorry to say. But I think we survived in spite and not because of. I know we did.
Well, and this might sound kind of odd, but thank goodness you went along that journey because
Yes.
it has led you to discovering the keys that do work and then writing all these wonderful books that you've been writing that really help women in relationships because most women have no clue that it's all about respect. They have no clue about that. It's just like we show up and let's just work, we'll hash it out,
That's it. That is right. You make a really good point in that I'm just incredibly grateful now. I wouldn't take nothing from my journey now, to quote Maya Angelou. I'm so glad that I had the breakdown in my marriage that I had because it's propelled me onto the best self-improvement program I can ever imagine. I've regained so much dignity and confidence, and of course I have a wonderful marriage now, and that gives me a lot of inner strength as well. And it's absolutely true that, I think I had heard that I should be respectful. I kind of knew it, but I didn't really have any clue what that looked like. And even to this day, I'll write a blog about respect, what respect looks like to men. And it's so funny because my female brain will come in there and go, well, that's respect. And it's like, no, that has nothing to do with what men consider respect. Like for me, I would think, well, I didn't leave a mess, or I let him know where I was going to be, and that has nothing to do with it. What my husband considers respect, and what husbands all over the world consider respect, is when I don't try to improve on his thinking. So he might say, well, I'm thinking about doing this. And I could say, and I used to in the old days, well, have you thought about doing it this way, right? And that just seems like I'm being helpful. But helpful in wife language is actually critical in husband language. And that was a sign of my disrespect. It was a sign that I didn't think very much of what he thought. And I couldn't at first figure out how I could respect him and still have my own voice in the relationship. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm just going to have to suck it up and agree with him. Like, forget it. I'm a feminist. There's no way that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But today, I know that I can honor my feelings and desires while still respecting his thinking. And I can say things to be respectful that don't mean that I agree. In fact, I have a magical 3-word phrase that I use to do that all the time. And it's been really wonderful to just be able to rely on that when he says something that I don't necessarily agree with. And that magical phrase is this: I hear you. I hear you. It's just 3 words. And so it's not I hear you and I think, or I hear you, but what about this? It's just letting him know, hey, what you're saying is important to me. I'm bearing witness right now. And I'm not agreeing or I'm not disagreeing. And it's a great way to honor my husband's thinking and thereby be respectful, the thing that he needs, like oxygen. Respect is like oxygen for husbands.
Well, Dean, and it kind of leads me to my next question, because a lot of times when women get into relationships, they have no idea what it is that they want. So how does, knowing what you want help get what you want out of your marriage?
Yeah, well, that was certainly the case for me. I wasn't paying much attention to what I wanted. I was really focused on getting the house clean, paying the bills, getting my work done. And I had become just this sort of sad, martyr-like version of my previous goddess of fun and light self that he fell in love with originally. And it was almost impossible to make me happy. And what was sad is what I didn't realize, my husband really wants to make me happy. In fact, this is kind of a fun thing. I've asked thousands of men all over the world, actually, how important is it to you that your wife is happy? And they all say the same thing. They say it's the most important thing, or it's everything, or in the UK they say it's imperative. And so we know that this is actually a really vital part of a happy relationship. You can't have a happy relationship unless you're happy already. And for me, I know I had somehow decided it was his job to make me happy, and he wasn't doing a very good job. But really, that important job is mine. And then once I figure out what makes me happy and I give it to myself, he just wants to pile on. He finds other ways to make me happy. He's like, oh, can I put gas in your car? Oh, would you like a cup of tea? Oh, how about if I do the laundry? I mean, he trips over himself to do ever more when he sees that he can make me smile or laugh or consider him my hero. I can trigger his hero gene just by expressing what I call a pure desire. And so it really did come down to this important work of figuring out what it was that I wanted. And then also being brave enough to say it out loud. It feels a little vulnerable sometimes to say what I want. So what I did was I decided I was going to do at least 3 things a day for my own pleasure, my own happiness. And so I made a list of 20 things that I love to do, like I love to play volleyball, so that's on there, and I love to sing at the top of my lungs. I love to walk with music that I love and sing at the top of my lungs, unfortunately, for my neighbors. And I love to just grab a cup of coffee with a friend or talk on the phone to my sister or take a nap. So I came up with this long list, and then every day I would just make myself do 3 things, like just the way you'd make yourself, like, do your homework or, do the dishes or something like that. I just made that my priority. And man, it was like the intimacy just was restored from figuring out how to make myself happy.
Well, and I think it's a good thing to have that in place, like what your goals are in your relationship, and focusing on your happiness just, accelerates your husband's desire to continue to make you happy.
It really does. It was so helpful just to figure out the wording, too, to do that. Like, I had the unfortunate habit early in my marriage where I would just complain about something, and I would say, John, this kitchen is a disaster. And I thought he was going to jump up off the couch and then start cleaning the kitchen, and that never happened. That never happened. So it wasn't until, and then I tried begging and pleading and just crying, every different thing that I could think of. And it wasn't until I learned to express that desire in a way that inspires by just stating the final outcome that I wanted, that I started to get a different result. Like with the kitchen, I just said, I would love a clean kitchen. And then he could understand what I wanted. When I was complaining, all he heard was, John, blah, 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 right? He couldn't even hear what to do or what I wanted. And when I said I would love a clean kitchen, he was like, okay, I'll clean it. And he's been doing it ever since, and that's been 17 or 18 years now. So it really works like a charm.
Well, I'm so glad you touched on that, because I think it's so important. You talk about expressing your desires in a way that inspires. It's all about how you talk.
Yes, absolutely. And so the complaining, it's so funny, right? Like, and also, I had become like his mom, right? So I was constantly trying to improve my husband, and I was telling him how he could dress better. I was telling him how to eat healthier. I was telling him how to make a budget, how to make a resume, what he could do at work. And in those moments when I was doing that, again, thinking I'm being helpful, this is just what helpmates do, I had also become very much like his mother. And so men are not sexually attracted to their mothers. And women aren't sexually attracted to their little boys, conversely, right? And I started to see him like a little boy. I even would joke. I'd be like, yeah, I have one child. He's 36, right? And so thinking that was hilarious. And now I just see how demeaning that was, and how I had taken myself out of the role I really want to be in, which is to be his lover, and made myself into his mother. And with that kind of dynamic, he was like the rebellious kid that just didn't want to do any of those things that I was telling him to do. And I couldn't understand why he just wouldn't do these simple things that I was telling him. And it was really heartbreaking. It was very lonely, because I had no idea that I was contributing so much to, what I now know was needless emotional turmoil, or NET for short, right? NET, at my house. I really thought I was the perfect wife. And I probably was right up until I got married, but as soon as that happened, no, I
throw that all out the window, right?
Exactly, it all went out the window. Yeah, so just learning to express my desires and my feelings. Oh, in fact, there was this. I thought this was hilarious. I hope you're sitting down for this news, because there was a study at the University of Toronto recently where they discovered that women are more emotional than men are. So, I mean, who knew, right? That's like shocking.
Ooh,
and so there's some research money that was well spent. But like, well, of course we are. And that's one of our feminine gifts, is this emotional brilliance that we have. And our husbands really depend on us for that aspect of the relationship. Really, nothing can get started until we bring that emotional side, and particularly our vulnerability, which is part of the fascination that creates lasting commitment, lifelong commitment. And so if we are bringing our feelings and we're bringing our desires to the relationship, we're really playing to our strengths. And then we can really be fully self-expressed and feel desired and cherished and adored without having to contradict his thinking or argue with his thinking or improve on it, which is where you get so much of the friction in a relationship, unnecessary friction.
So in your book, you talk about, women's birthright. And I love the chapter that you titled, "You're Not a Smaller, Less Hairy Man." That's going to be up there as one of the classics, okay? So, but you do touch on what our birthright is as women. And can you go over a little bit of that for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so embarrassed when I look back, because I really thought that as a feminist, some of my education was raised to have a career and not have to depend on a man, all that. I really thought that men and women were the same. And I thought if anybody said that we were different, I would get angry about that, because I would think, wow, if you say we're different, that means women are going to lose in the workplace. Mm-hmm. And so I was really committed to this notion that, there's no difference between men and women. And I thought that's what it had to be to be equal. So now what I see is that as a woman, I really just didn't know about my feminine gifts, and I thought, that I knew how to be a smaller, less hairy man, and of course I don't. It's like a round peg in a square hole, and it was very uncomfortable to try to operate from that. So knowing about my feminine gifts and strengths and operating from them has been incredibly empowering, because I like to say women can move mountains without moving a muscle. And it does go back to this idea of honoring our desires, but also really all of our feminine strengths. And so we bring different strengths to the workplace, and that's great. One of those strengths that we have is this emotional aspect, right? So, and we're better at relationships. We're better at building relationships at work. So that shows up again and again in studies in the workplace that women have that as a strength. So it doesn't mean we're going to come up short when we go to work. But one of the things that was also quite revealing about this is that when I tried to use the things that made me successful at work, where I'm trying to manage my project and my staff, and I'm trying to improve the bottom line or maybe get a promotion, I tried to use that in my relationship, and it didn't work. And that's because the goals in my relationship were totally different. In my relationship, I just want him to tell me I'm beautiful. I want him to make bedroom eyes at me. I want to hold hands. I want to laugh together. Totally different goals. And so it makes sense that would require a different skill set. But I didn't have it. There was no relationships 101 at my school. I don't know if there was at yours. Probably not. And so I'm not sure where we were supposed to learn this stuff.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of it, especially now with, and we had talked about this last time we had you on the show too. I mean, the gender roles can be so confusing for women because, are we supposed to be wearing the pants in the family, or, can we embrace our divine feminine? Which is it? And a lot of times women get confused with that. It's like, okay, well, how should I be not only in the workplace but at home?
Yeah, and so this has been just fascinating for me, is that if I lead with my desires, if I get really clear on what it is I want, and I honor those, and by honor, I just mean I admit them to myself, maybe to somebody else, when I get really brave, I start admitting it to other people. And I'll give you an example of this. So recently, I said to myself, I thought, well, I'm passionate about my mission to end world divorce, and I want every woman to have the 6 intimacy skills. And so one way I think that'd be really effective to get the message out is if I had my own TV show. And so I kind of said it to myself, and it made me a little slightly terrified to think about that. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna start admitting this. I'm gonna start telling. I told my husband, and I told a couple of people I work with, and then I had a meeting with my coaches. We have our annual symposium, and I said, hey, coaches, here's my vision for the year. I want to create a TV series to get the word out about the 6 intimacy skills. I don't know how I'm going to do it, and I'm just telling you guys because I know you love me and support me. And so there it is. That's all I got. That's my vision. And that very night was the start of my Cherish for Life weekend. A woman in the audience was the Emmy-nominated producer of The Dog Whisperer. And she approached me that very night and said, have you ever thought about doing a TV series? And I said, well, I'm very open to that. And just within a couple of months, I had my own TV series on Amazon, The Empowered Wives. And all that just from expressing my desire, just from honoring it. So it's amazing because desire is the seat of feminine power, that if we just get in touch with that and navigate from there, it becomes a directional not just for us, but also for our husbands. Because since what they want is to make us happy, if they know what we desire, that's how they can make decisions. That's their roadmap for how they're going to operate in the world.
Mm. Well, and you talk about roadmap, and we touched on it a little bit before, but I'd like to kind of bring it up again because I think it's such an important topic, and your book has a lot to do with that in regards to the topic of respect. So how important is it for us to not only restore respect and keep it to where it really kind of should be in a relationship, but also work on maintaining it?
Yeah. It's so important. I'll tell you a little story actually about one woman who was learning about the intimacy skills, and she decided to start apologizing to her husband every time she noticed that she was disrespectful, because she reasoned out that respect was actually beneficial to her, right? We are partners. We are a team in the marriage. And so if I'm wanting a respectful relationship, then it's kind of like the old song, like, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Well, let there be respect in my marriage and let it begin with me. So she decided that she wanted to begin to treat him with respect. So she started apologizing every time she noticed she was disrespectful. And she was having to do this a lot at first because she had really fallen into the habit, as I had too, and a lot of us have, of not being respectful, of rolling our eyes, of interrupting, of telling him how to do things better, of questioning how he handles the kids, all those things. And so it was a new dance. This was not the way they were used to communicating, and her husband felt a little uncomfortable. And he said, you don't have to apologize every little time that you're disrespectful to me. And she said, it's no longer okay with me to treat you disrespectfully. And so this is how I want to become a better wife. This is the wife I really want to be, the respectful wife I'd like to be. And so you're my husband. You deserve my respect. And at that moment, he got a little something in his eye, and he just kind of teared up. And now he brags in an adorable way about his wife every chance he gets to anyone who will listen, because she's so respectful to him. And I think that's something that a lot of us want, is for our husbands to speak so highly like that of us. And so it really just kind of illustrates that in some ways these intimacy skills, the joke was on me, because it was all about becoming my best self, becoming the best Laura I can be, the best wife that I can be, and not hearing myself use that shrill tone where I sound like my mother on her worst day.
Yeah. And it really puts things in greater perspective, because once you're on that track, your husband's happier, you're happier, you have a happier relationship.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like it. I just remember when I first started practicing the intimacy skills, I'd been trying them for a while, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But I just remember I walked to the door one night, and his face lit up. He was happy to see me again, and that had been gone for a long time. And so I thought, wow, this is really working. And sure enough, the kind of relationship I have now, I was brushing crumbs off the counter recently, and he said, "Oh, wait, don't move." And he got out his phone to take my picture, like I'm the supermodel that he's been married to for 28 years now, which I'm unspeakably grateful to have that kind of, I just feel so loved every single day, and I can't imagine not having the inner strength that I get from that now that I'm used to living this way for so many years.
Well, and it kind of leads me to my next question. I think a lot of times when women first get into this, they can probably have a lot of fear come up. They're like, ooh, am I doing this right? Or I messed all this up, or what have you. What are some ways they can nurture their faith instead of their fears?
What a great question. It is all about faith over fear. And it's true that I think when you're first learning, it's sort of like anything else. Like if you're learning piano, right? You're not that great at first, right? It's just a new skill. And these are skills. So just like making an omelet or anything else. Like you wouldn't sit down at the piano and say, gosh, I hope I'm good at playing this thing, right? You know, okay, I'm going to have to do some Hammond exercises, right? Or learn where the notes are and maybe start out with some jingle bells and things like that. So it's absolutely true that it feels very awkward in the beginning because you can really see the vision of where you want to be, and you're not there yet. And I just remember that so clearly. It was very painful for me to have a glimpse of all the destruction I created in my marriage and not be able to stop just yet. But what's really been the key for me, what's made just a dramatic, tremendous difference, and it's kind of the secret of why I do this work, is having a community of like-minded women that stand for my marriage, that stand for my greatness too. Where, if I am having a bad day and I complain about my husband or something, they aren't saying, yeah, you should leave him, right? Which is kind of something that happens a lot out in the world. Yeah. You're hearing one side of the story, and people, they want to protect you. Your loved ones want to protect you. And so sometimes people are quick to think that's going to be the solution. And of course it just rarely is. It just never is. So really for me, the reason I have this worldwide organization of women who are practicing the 6 intimacy skills, it has a lot to do with me being able to stay in the conversation and commune with like-minded women and keep me on track.
And that's so important because, like how you're saying, there are, probably being married and complaining to your single friends about your husband is going to give you one perspective as opposed to having a network of women who are, and they don't have to be single or married, but I'm just saying network of women who are really rooting for your marriage and, not really kind of engaging in any, because it's easy to kind of get into that negative thought process sometimes,
It is. I think there's also a lot of, there's just a lot of literature out there. Because I struggled for so many years in my marriage, now when I see bad relationship advice, and there's so much of it, I just want to punch somebody in the nose, Marianne. So I don't know, I still have some anger issues there because it was so painful for me. Like, I just was reading somebody's recommendation the other day that if your husband isn't physically affectionate, you need to tell him that you have a serious concern about his lack of physical affection. As if he, forgot to give you physical affection, or he didn't know that you liked physical affection. It never worked for me. I used to do that. I used to stand with my hands on my hips and say, you need to pay more attention to me. You need to spend more time with me. And I was like a porcupine wife. He just couldn't get close to me without, getting prickered. So there's just a lot of, I think, well-meaning, but unfortunately very ineffective and wrong-headed advice out in the world. And, this whole just leave him thing is definitely a big part of that. And I remember one client in particular came and she used the 6 intimacy skills to, create a wonderful relationship with her husband. She was very happy and grateful. And then she said, but man, I look back at my first marriage where I had 2 small kids and we were sleeping in separate bedrooms for like a year. So she went to a counselor by herself and said this to the counselor, and the counselor said, well, your marriage is dead. You need to get divorced. It's over. And she said it really forcefully. I know. So we hear this is the kind of story, just add that to the list of reasons that marriage counseling is just not effective. Sometimes there's or of authority that the marriage counselor takes. Like, they know what's best for her. And of course, she's the expert in her own life, but she was unduly influenced. So she went home and said, well, it's over. I'm going to file for divorce. And the husband said, well, I'm willing to work on it. And she said, no, the counselor says it's too late. And so she broke up her young family. I know. So it's sad. We hear a lot of tragic stories like that. I remember another woman, it's kind of a similar, they didn't have children, but she was in counseling with her husband. And during the counseling session, she said, she's feeling very hopeless, as you do sometimes in marriage counseling. And she said, well, I want a divorce. And her husband kind of fought her. He's like, no, come on, we can figure this out. She said, no, I really want a divorce. And so finally he capitulated. He said, and this is what he said, it's very interesting. He said, if that's what will make you happy, then okay, we'll get divorced. And I just, in a way, it's like amazing to me, like those words, if that's what will make you happy. He was still trying to make her happy. And so they started the divorce. He moved all the way across the country, started a new job. And then she discovered the 6 intimacy skills, and she was crying when she said, I can't accept that there was anything else I could have done to save my marriage, because I worked so hard to save my marriage. But unfortunately, she did the wrong kind of work. And so, and this is my heartbreak, that that every woman needs to have these intimacy skills so she knows where her power is and how to access it. Because once you know it, then you can avoid that fate.
Well, it makes it easier to have a positive outlook to your marriage as opposed to like a very negative one with everything that's going on, because I think it's easy for people to just like, oh, I can't stand the way he eats, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Kind of get on the negative bandwagon there. Well, Laura, thank you for taking the time to be on the show with us today. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about the Empowered Wife?
Oh, we have something really fun going on right now. It's the Get Cherished Challenge. And so I send you an experiment to try it in your marriage. I send little cheat phrases that you can try every day for 5 days. So just like I did, you experiment in your marriage, and if it works, you keep it, and if it doesn't, you can throw it out. But we get some pretty magical results with these little phrases that help men hear and understand what we want. So you can get that at getcherished.com. So it's like got milk, but it's Get Cherished. And you can also read a free chapter of The Empowered Wife there. Or you could go to Amazon, and it's free for Prime members to watch Empowered Wives, the new series about how to apply the 6 intimacy skills in your life.
Hey, congratulations on your TV show. That's very exciting.
Thank you so much. I'm excited too. It's wonderful.
I'll definitely be watching that and checking it out. I suggest all of our listeners do the same. And again, Laura, thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to be with us here today and talk about the Empowered Wife.
Oh, I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in today. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.